Are we settled? Good evening. On this rainy Thursday evening. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJS 3, excuse me, see if I get my glasses on. NJSA 1046, place 1975, C231, S1, amended 2006, C70, S2, the Asbury Park Board of Education. Notice of the time, date, location, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting to Asbury Park Press and the New Coaster on January 4th, 2019 by email. Copies of this notice have also been placed at the Administration Building Bulletin Board, District Schools, Asbury Park Municipal Building, Asbury Park Police Department, and filed with the City Clerk on January 4th, 2019. Our mission statement is that Asbury Park School District will provide all students with a comprehensive and progressive education where everyone possesses the skills and character to succeed in a diverse, evolving global society. Mr. Hastings, roll call, please.
Ms. Etienne? Mr. Grillo?
Here.
Ms. Jones? Mr. LaRocca? Here. Ms. Lazinski? Here. Mr. Pinckney? Mr. Saunders? Ms. Breach? Ms. Abez Anderson?
Here. Please stand for the pledge, please.
Madam President, could I just make a comment before we start?
Please do.
Thank you. So as the board knows, we're broadcasting this meeting over our WebEx software system, our Cisco WebEx system. The microphones, for better quality, are directly linked into the WebEx software so that folks can hear us better. So please just mind your mics in terms of turning them on and off, and mind the sensitivity of the mics for comments.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Now, before we begin the committee reports, I would like for us to go over our board goals. And Mr. LaRocca and Ms. Lazinski, are you prepared to present? Thank you. And then I will ask Ms. Etienne and Mr. Grillo to present. Thank you.
I'll start. The goal Barb and I were involved in as board members is goal number 3.
Mr. LaRocca, I'm sorry if I may interrupt you. I need you to pull your microphone closer to you because you have your mask, and we want those that are online to hear us. Thank you.
How's this? Okay.
Perfect.
Did everyone get a copy, or do I need to hand out copies?
I believe we all have a copy. Am I correct, members? Yes.
I'd like to thank Barb for putting together the actual action plan after we spoke a bit and exchanged some emails. So we're working on goal number 3, schedule quarterly updates to the full board on the development of the budget and the fiscal implication. I'll just broadly say a couple of things and then turn it over to Barb. My personal approach was that, one, we look at upfront, are there some things that will, we know we've got over a $5 million cut coming next year. Are there some things that passively will assist us with that? I'm going to a former life and what I would do, but hopefully, and I haven't discussed this a lot with Jeff and Sanchin, whether it can be done, but I would look at run rates last year compared to this year and see, are there savings coming about? Primarily, I'd be looking at, have there been personnel vacancies that haven't been filled, and look at a number of those kinds of things that we tried to list some to say, is there some savings there that's bringing the number down? The second thing I thought it was critical to do with a lot of misinformation out there is make it clear that we as a board understand funding is driven by the state. The state is both cutting our aid, and the state has also by formula said we as a municipality are not paying our fair share. That's okay. It seemed like the sound changed. And to more clearly put board members on the record that as a board, there's going to be moderate tax increases. No individual is pushing that. If someone actually on the board thinks this can be done or should be done without moderate tax increases, they should make a public record of it and then defend that. Really, in my mind, the only question is over the course of the next 4 years, what the tax increases might be, how we would get to our number totally. But the idea of tax increase versus not tax increase is really a non-debate. And I would hope that the full board supports the children in the district and what we're trying to do there. And then finally, to the extent there has to be proactive, which I'm sure there will have to be, proactive actions taken to balance next year's budget, that we can do that under a timeline where the board can have more information and be able to put input into those policy decisions of what might proactively be cut to get to that number. Once we look at, has there been any passive savings? Have our friends at the state legislature been able to save us any money with health care benefits as they initially expressed, or not? Other aspects of what we might have saved, then what is the board coming forth in terms of a tax increase to get closer to what the state is mandating that we as a community should be paying toward our schools? And then finally, have some discussion about the policy determinations to then hit our number and have a balanced budget for next year. So that's just what I was thinking as I thought through things prior to putting it to paper, and then discussing with Barb, who I said did a tremendous amount of work in terms of putting it in this template. So I'll turn it over to Barb.
I think that what Dominic and I really discussed a lot was all the parts that have to come together to have a final budget adoption. And it's important that as the board has discussions with administration, that we take ownership of it, that it's the board's budget and we'll all feel comfortable about what we're going to be doing. And I would imagine, as Dominic and I spoke, is there's going to be different scenarios that probably would be presented. Like if you like something from column A, B, and C, then that's A, or there's several ways we could look at this, and that there isn't any question at the end that we all agree on what's going to be submitted to the county superintendent and the state in the end. And I think it's also a good learning tool to know a little bit about what our future looks like and how all of us, administration and the board, how we see it. Because if we put all our thoughts together, there's going to be ideas that one person had that maybe everybody else didn't even think about. And I think it's important that we do have healthy discussions, and the public is aware of our progress as we move along also. So if you take a brief look at it, and if there's something that tonight you want to ask about or adjust, or even after we take a look at it tonight and there may be some changes or questions as to what different things mean, so we're clear about what Dominic and I discussed in the timeline.
Okay, first of all, I wanted to thank both of you for the time that you put into this, and I appreciate both of you. That's why I asked you to do this goal, and you did a lot of work, so thank you very much. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right. Connie and I did our board goal number 1, continue to refine and implement ways to communicate our story to the Asbury Park community. There's several major activities that we were thinking about doing. One of it is definitely we have to update our photos on the website and maybe add a bio so that when people look at the Board of Education members, they know who they are and maybe a little bit about what they're about. So they're more informed of where we all came from and why we're here. Then we're going to have regular updates of the goals in monthly meetings or as regularly as we can as we move along in all board goals. The district website, there's some things that when you peruse the website that are missing, like a master district calendar. You look at the calendar and there isn't much there, as a master calendar. I mean, you would have to go to each school, but let's say there's a football game. You should be able to just go to calendar and say there's a board meeting, there's a football game, or something's happening that the public would be interested in. And a search bar for the Board of Education, because right now you can't find the Board of Education unless you start looking down. So there are some things that have been suggested that may improve the user-friendly aspect of our board website, our district website. Also, Jeff and I have had discussions about what was the Board of Education Facebook page, which was done way back in, I think it's 2012. We don't know who did it or who's the administrator, but I think they're trying to figure out how to either delete that one and start a new one. And this would be managed either by a committee or somebody appointed to do it that would, give board information out about different things that we may discuss at a meeting or some kind of initiative or just general things that are going on. Also, we talked about the last few years about moving our board meetings to different places in the community so that we can meet maybe somewhere down by the business district or maybe at City Hall or somewhere else where people that normally wouldn't come to Bradley or may not come to Bradley would come to another location, so that we're moving around the city, which easy enough to do, but I don't know how we're going to be able to do it with the COVID issue and that sort of stuff. So it might be something that we maybe could do it in the spring sometime or in the summer. We'll see how that goes. Also, what else did I have? That's about it. There's some other information there. So if anybody had any comments or maybe additions to this to help us communicate our story a little better, just suggest it.
Are there any comments or questions from the board?
No, I think it's a good idea to revamp the Facebook page, and we could immediately put up the board agendas. So that's like one more location that could be found.
Ms. Lozinski, thank you very much. Excellent job. Thank you. Okay, Madam Etienne and Mr. Grillo.
Sure. So we were tasked to tackle our board goal number 2, which was improving communication, admin communications and accountability to the board. The planning committee was myself, Ms. Etienne, Ms. Jones, and Madam President. So Sheila and I met a couple of times to go over kind of what we saw as obstacles to better communication and how we can kind of transcend that. And so we came up with 5 main bullet points. And what I did was I emailed all this to you. My printer got exhausted after printing this agenda, so I wasn't able to print it out. So the first part was the board member to board member communication. A lot of times, either some board members don't use the Outlook, the Microsoft email, or there's something that needs to be relayed rather quickly. So our first goal, our first part of the second board goal is to research group communication software such as Slack or Flock or Pronto. There are different software that's used in business, in the corporate world. I use it almost every day at my nonprofit. And it's a way to help facilitate discussion and communication in a way that is immediate and timely. And there's no waiting with the emails. The one thing about these group communication softwares is that we'd have to consult with legal counsel whether such products are even allowed for a board, taking into consideration about quorum issues and things like that. And if not, if they could be adjusted so as to comply with all the sunshine and Oprah requirements.
And the second part that we talked about is the timeline for information that's requested from the board to the administration. We spoke about a 24 to 48 hour timeline where if there was a request put in, that we would get a response, if not the answer, but we would get a response saying, you know, we received it, we're working on it, and then we would receive another date where we would get the information. So either we'd get the information within 24 to 48 hours, or we get a response saying we're working on it, it's going to take us however amount of time, and then we'd get it in that amount of time. And the onus would be on the person that we requested the information from to get back to us.
Yeah, and the other part to that is, and this kind of goes into what Barbara and Connie are trying to do with possibly kind of revamping some of the website or some of the Facebook aspects, is to have information request software that's out there right now that could be easily installed and readily available on the front page of the school district website if an Oprah request is required. There are times when we've heard that in order to get certain information, there'd have to be an Oprah request. So there is software out there that makes Oprah requests a lot easier, called like Next Request. There's a couple of other ones out there like Oprah Wizard. So that's another part to the timeliness of information requests. We believe that these things will cut down on the kind of the bureaucracy and the back and forth of getting certain information on a timely basis.
We also spoke about the protocols in which to ask for the information, setting up some kind of protocol that says you do A, B, and C when you're requesting information, whether it goes straight to Madam Superintendent, who gets CC'd, if other board members are included in it, and then when the information is returned, is it returned to the board at whole, or is it returned to just the person that was requesting the information?
Right. And then correspondence to the board, letters, emails, contracts, district event invitations. We look to have them get delivered to the board members in a more consistent and timely manner. We've had times in the past where, and we've all been there, where we see something that happened on social media, and we say to ourselves, "Oh, I would have gone to that if I knew about it, or if I got the invitation sooner." So those kind of tweaks, I think, in terms of giving us enough time to not only receive the invitation, but also to plan, giving us some room to plan that within each board member's day.
We also spoke about meeting agendas, trying to see if we can get them on Friday so that we would have the weekend to review them, especially for those of us that work during the week. And also limiting the amount of addendums that come the day of the board meetings, so that we have time to ask questions and properly review all materials.
And that's it.
Okay, thank you very, very much.
I just had a comment about that.
Okay, just give me 1
sure.
second. Thank you both. You did a great job. Ms. Lazinski?
When Joe was mentioning the Oprah requests, and I know that the city has, I don't know what system they use, but I've used it several times, and it's very, very easy. You request what you need, and you get a number, and you get a response from, it gets to whoever it needs to go to, and they send it to you in an email. It's like really very easy. I've done it a number of times. So that might be something to help the business office because, you know, Mr. Hastings is the person that keeps the records, so it might make his business office job easier to have something that's automatic and you don't have to, you know, worry about letters and things like that, mail.
We don't want to make Mr. Hastings' job that much easier.
Were there any other questions or comments regarding the goals? Okay, so thank you very much. You board members did an excellent job, and I appreciate each of you. Okay, we're going to go into our committee chair reports, and I'm going to start with Madam Etienne. Are you ready? Okay, Madam Etienne is Chair of Buildings and Grounds.
Okay, so we had an AYF started an application for facilities used for cheerleading practice. The application asks for the use of the facilities from October 15th to June 30th. The committee deferred the decision because of COVID. We have not been really granting decisions to use in indoor facilities. There's a building project, removal of the water damage and materials at Thurgood Marshall. Quotes are being obtained for repair, which will be submitted to the insurance company for approval. The estimated completion time is about 8 weeks. Then there's 2 rooftop HVC units are being repaired at Bradley Elementary. The units are in the gymnasium and the center corridor office and classrooms. The repairs are expected to be completed by October 16th, which is already. We talked about the central office relocation, and we talked about the time frame and possible locations. Barack Obama is still on the table for there, or we talked about maybe a modular. We're trying to see what is fiscally more responsible for us to do. And then long-range facilities plan. We talked about a comprehensive maintenance plan, and an M1 will be presented to the board for approval at this meeting. And then we talked about the parking in front of Thurgood Marshall. As you know, there was supposed to be signage to say that the parking is not available during school hours. So we're still waiting for the city to get back to us on putting that signage out. That's the end of my report. Thank you. Any questions?
No questions for Madam Chair?
I just had, I spoke to her before. I have questions about the solar thing, but when we get to it on the agenda, I can ask, I think.
Thank you, Ms. Lozinski. Madam Chair, thank you so very much for an excellent report. Ms. Lozinski, would you please report, would you be able to report on athletics and policy? Or would you?
Sure. Athletics, well, let me start with policy. Policy, there are second readings on the agenda. We are going over one policy that after tonight, when we go into exec, then we'll better understand how the changes were made and what changes are to be made for the first reading for that policy for next month. Athletics, we went over Friday's game, of course, with Shore Regional was canceled, and I know that Mr. Gerbino is trying to find another game. I don't know if there's an update on that, if there's going to be a game, because it's going to be awful wet tomorrow, too.
Yes, I'm sorry.
We won't have another game. We're just going to let it, just forego the additional game.
The other thing is, let's see, this, I guess you'd call it the winter sports, are all scheduled. They have everything scheduled. I think they've changed everything, so from memory, I don't remember which sports are. I think volleyball and other indoor track and some other things, yeah, basketball. They're already scheduled, so they're on the schedule. If it goes forward so far, everything's a go. And I'm trying to think of what else. I think that was really it. There wasn't much on the agenda. So if you have anybody any questions about it or any questions about athletics that they might have thought about.
And just for the record, Ms. Lozinski is Chair of Policy. Thank you, Ms. Lozinski. And now, in the absence of Madam Vice President Breach, who is the Chair of Athletics, if you would please present. Thank you.
I don't have anything else to present. That's okay. I know.
Pardon me, I was doing something else, trying to multitask, so forgive me, but thank you very much. Okay. Mr. LaLarocca, you are the Chair of Finance. Would you please present?
Yes, I have to apologize. I missed the meeting due to some health reasons. I could respond to the solar, but maybe Jeff could just fill in off the.
Sure, I think I left you the notes there. Could I see those, please?
Okay, you want me to go through them then?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay.
As I gave you my only copy.
Pretty shrewd. We did discuss the solar project. We had, at that point, we had 5 respondents to our request for proposal for solar panels on most of the buildings, but not all the buildings in the district that met requirements and that we were going to interview, and that was the first step. Going through that interview process, making an evaluation, working with our consultant, and then a recommendation, and that recommendation is being presented to the board this evening, and believe the recommendation report was posted to all board members on Monday. Same discussion occurred with regard to building and grounds on central office relocation and the comprehensive maintenance plan, which will be presented. The only other point was that NJSBA conference was virtual this year, and as I understand it, because I didn't tune in, everything is recorded, and board members can go on now and pick certain workshops for the next year or 12 months. Okay. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Madam President, can I follow up with his mention about the
Yes,
school
well, I'll
boards
catch my
conference?
breath.
I don't know how many people listened in to some of the seminars, but the most interesting one that I listened in, it was a legislative meeting with Senator Sweeney and 3 other senators, I forget their names, and there was a pretty interesting discussion about S2 and maybe revisiting it. There was also a discussion about Chapter 44 and the new health insurance plan, and I guess they've had received some feedback about some districts not benefiting from it. It's actually could be costing them more, and from what they were discussing, one senator said that the intent of the bill was not to harm districts, and there might be just some discussion about holding districts harmless if they find that they'll be paying more for health insurance, their part, so that it would be, another expense that they hadn't before the bill. So I don't know what kind of conversations they're going to have about both issues, but it was interesting to listen. So if you get a chance to listen to it, I would definitely do so.
Thank you, Ms. Lozinski. Mr. Chair of Curriculum and Instruction, Mr. Pickney, are you ready to present?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Let's see. First, we're seeking board approval to renew the agreement with the Visiting Nurses Association Central Jersey for the upcoming school year, or the current school year, for the purpose of providing healthcare services to the students at this all 4 schools. Also seeking approval for the renewal of Seesaw, which is a digital learner management system that serves as a platform to provide developmentally appropriate instructional activities and family communication tools. That's for grade K through 3. Recommending approval for the Asbury Park Wall Elks to sponsor their yearly essay contests for students in 5th through 8th grade. This year's theme is How Can Patriotism Be Demonstrated? Running through December 15th. Also seeking approval for the Asbury Park Wall Elks to host their yearly Americanism contest. That contest is open to special needs students ages 9 through 14. Let's see. We're seeking board approval for the academic affiliation agreement between Hackensack Meridian School of Medicine and the Asbury Park District for COVID-19 assistance. Also seeking approval, recommending approval for the Early Childhood Department in collaboration with Central Jersey Urgent Care to provide 60 vouchers for flu vaccinations at the Office of Central Jersey Urgent Care. And that's to assist families of preschool age students in meeting the state influenza vaccination mandate. Also recommending approval for the Asbury Park School District in collaboration with Central Jersey Urgent Care to provide 30 vouchers for flu vaccinations at the Office of Central Jersey Urgent Care. That'll assist families K through 12 students in having access to the influenza vaccine. Seeking board approval for the purchase of a 2-year extension of the Teaching Strategies Creative Curriculum Cloud Platform. And also recommending approval for the district to purchase Rubna Health app. That program will allow the district to send daily messages to all the students and faculty with the health questionnaire that will be monitored and allows students to be checked as they enter the building, ensuring they have completed the form. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Mr. Pickney. Are there any questions? Ms. Lozinski?
I had a question about Ruvna Health app, number 19. I know that other districts use, since we have Genesis, they use Genesis Parent Portal for the applications. I looked up several districts that do. I stopped after I found 4. And I was wondering why we would spend, I guess it's the COVID grant. I'm not sure what money we're using, the $11,000. We could use it somewhere else if we just use Genesis, because that's what quite a few districts use, and we already have that application. And I'm sure the forms are already set up. They're using it in other places, and we could do the same thing without spending additional funds.
Madam Superintendent?
Thank you. So one of the things that we did in the district, consistent with our rollback plan, was that we instituted a gradual reopening where we started bringing students in. We did use Genesis. We have our health form there. We currently use that. But in an effort to be more efficient, as we continue to bring in additional students into our school so that we don't have a bottlenecking occurring and having students closer in proximity, we want to make sure that those forms are done in an electronic transfer method prior to their arrival to school. And we're looking for more efficient ways to do that.
Did you speak to any of the districts that use Genesis for that? Because big districts, Fort Lee, Palisades Park, South Plainfield, Haddonfield, there's quite a few. And I don't know if you checked to see if they are using it, if it's effective. Because if it's effective, why not save $11,000 and use it somewhere else?
So part of the purpose for the rollback plan and the staggering of the introduction of students was so that we had an opportunity to assess, see if the protocols and the procedures that we put in place were meeting our needs. To your point, there are other districts that are using it. That is why when we instituted our initial phase-in, we used it as well. And so in reviewing and assessing what has come out of our population for our usage, we want to be a little more efficient in how we are handling and managing that. And as a result, we looked into RUVNA because there are also other districts that have been using it, and that's helped to inform our decision-making here.
Madam Superintendent, can you just tell us the difference, I guess, the difference between the two and what makes the app more efficient?
So with the app, you actually have a code that will come up on the device that our students have received, and that will make the transition into our building a lot more smoother and simpler for our staff in terms of knowing who has completed the health attestation form and who we may need to direct to the nurse's office for the nurse to then address that student. It's literally like a barcode that they get, and the teachers just move them in, as opposed to kind of going into the Google Classroom or into another platform through Genesis that Genesis informs in order for the teacher to see it. And like I said, we're looking to increase our footprint in terms of the students coming in. So that becomes a management issue for us.
I just have one other question I was thinking about is that one of the district goals was increasing parent participation, and one of the metrics you were using in data was Genesis. And if you're trying to get more parents to use Genesis, why would you now use an app that would kind of be in contrary to the goal of having all parents get on Genesis, check the kids' homework, check their grades, see what's going on? This would be another way to bring them into that system so that you can collect data on that, because if they go to an app, they're not going to Genesis. I just thought maybe it might be a better way to measure, since it was one of the district goals to use that as a measurement for data. So right now we wouldn't be able to. I mean, it would definitely bring more parents to the Genesis system.
The goal of RUVNA is not to remove or circumvent Genesis. It's to streamline the process so that the flow and the movement of students is increased, so we don't have a bottlenecking and we can maintain physical distancing. It's not to avoid having our parents going into Genesis.
Is there a way that we could look into it a little bit more to see whether we really, I mean, is this something you have to do like tomorrow? Or is it something that we can look into and see if, because I just see it as a contrary to what the district's goal is to get people to get on Genesis, so.
Our goal is definitely to ensure that we have parent engagement increased in terms of accessing Genesis. As a matter of fact, tonight you'll hear a presentation on that. But part of opening up the school to in-person instruction and why we began remotely was to ensure that the health and safety is maintained has been maintained for all of our students and faculty. We also want to make sure that that process is streamlined in a manner that allows for that social distancing to occur.
I'm sorry to belabor this, but can you tell me the districts that do use this app? Because I'm just curious of who does.
One of the districts I believe that uses it is High Tech High.
That's a small school though, right? Also?
Pardon?
Is there any other like district like ours that's?
I believe Eatontown also uses it. I could go to the director of special ed who did the research on that and give you a more comprehensive list of those districts.
No, I could probably look it up. I don't, just by looking at districts, you can find out what app they used. Thank you.
Were there any other questions? Mr. LaRocca?
I could ask a question about, on the addendum. I don't think it.
There's an addendum?
I don't think it came up. I've got addendum on B6. Conscious youth development and service agreement. I'm a strong supporter of that organization and what they do. I'm just confused perhaps about how this is written, what the agreement, we're making it contingent on availability of grant funds for 2 years, but we're initially not paying them, or we've been able to cover this somehow prior to. I'd just like an understanding of what we're agreeing to tonight with regard to the agreement. Thank you.
So KYDS applied for a grant, and they will be able to provide the services. And I will have Dr. Howard Morris delineate what those services would look like, but they will be able to provide services to the district at no cost to the district because they have, on their end, secured a grant. Dr. Howard Morris, can
Yes,
you provide some detail?
Yes, so they're with this grant, they're specifically just utilizing restorative practices. Previously, they did a lot of other things. They did SEL, they did mindfulness, they did a lot of other things. But this grant is just specifically for restorative practices.
Okay, so I get, we're essentially agreeing to it as part of their grant application for them to get the funds directly.
Yes,
Thank you.
There's no cost to the district.
no cost to the district.
Okay.
I have a question, if I may, because I didn't have a chance to see the addenda. I don't know when it came over. But did we send a letter with their grant application supporting it? Is that that's what it is?
No, so they received the grant they applied through the Monmouth County Juvenile Justice Department, and they had to state, what district they would work with. They're working with Neptune, and they're also working with us. So in order for them to move forward, we have to sign an MOU that we will be participating with them.
The board, I don't remember an MOU approved by the board for this grant.
This is the MOU is getting approved tonight.
Oh, so they haven't applied for this grant then?
No, they applied for the grant, but pending the MOU being signed. So they will not receive the grant funding if they don't have a signed MOU.
Okay, so that's not what this says, though. How much is the grant for?
It's about $45,000.
And it's for the full school year?
Yes. It says specifically for restorative practices.
That grant is between the two schools, though, between Neptune and Asbury, or is it 45 for just
45 for
Asbury?
each particular school.
When we receive things like that, we really should be looking at some kind of summary of the agreement, what the program is about, because we're approving something that I didn't get anything in the addendum. There's no attachment.
Hi, Carol.
Is this something that they have to have this month?
Yes, because we need to get started. Again, the other problem was that they weren't sure whether or not they were going to be allowed to conduct trainings via electronic medium. So initially, it had to be in person. We were going to start last school year in April, and however, when we went on leave for the pandemic, they had to determine whether or not they were going to be allowed to do the trainings via electronics. So they did approve last month that they were going to allow them to utilize restorative practice training via electronic medium.
The 45,000, is that for 1 year then? And then they have an option to renew? Is that what this means?
I believe it's 1 year for the $45,000.
1 year?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we wouldn't want to partner with them again. I'm sure it will be successful, but this reads that there's a 1 year renewal option. So I don't know exactly if maybe we should rewrite the number 3 to read that we're approving an MOA for the submission to the grant for the 2021 school year, and about, I don't know, it just reads more than what we're doing, I thought, myself. Of course, the lawyer knows better.
So I just have a question also. This is time sensitive, so they need to have this MOU signed, dated by when?
We would like to start on November 1st.
Wow, okay.
Now, I do have to say that I'm a big proponent for restorative practices. It was part of my minor for my master's. And this is great, depending on how it's implemented, especially if it travels through the school system in terms of how we discipline the children. You know, this is one of those things that really short circuits the school to prison pipeline. Restorative practices. So it is something that we should really give consideration to.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not against it. It's just I want to make sure I understand what we're doing and that it's an MOA and we're submitting it with this 2021 grant. And that's it, really.
Basically, Ms. Lozinski, you were seeking more information.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
didn't see this and it reads a little bit more than, I don't know.
So are you suggesting maybe this just be reworded so that it's
That's
just...
what I asked our attorney, if it just needed to be clarified and just make it so much shorter, it'd be so much easier to understand.
Can you hear me? I need to know exactly what it is that the board wants to do, and I have to check it out and see whether it meets the public contracting requirements. But what is it that you're looking to do exactly? You say you want to narrow it, you want to make it more efficient in the language?
Yeah, because we're approving an MOA for submission with this, the kids' services
Right.
for the, what is it, the Department of Justice, whatever the youth organization is.
Right. So,
And we're not accepting the grant yet because they haven't gotten the grant, and then that'll be another step that we're going to have to do later.
No, they have the grant, but
They have the grant.
Yes, they got approved for the grant. They got approved from the grant separate from us. Now, we have to accept that we'll work with them. Now, if we don't accept it, they can go to another school district and do it.
right, so this is a condition, so this language, just to be clear, where did this language come from? This came from them?
From them, yes.
Okay, so this was language that they told us we need to adopt in order for them to be able to work with our district to receive, so that they can receive the grant to work with our district?
Yes.
Okay,
So I would just say, if I'm sure the board's wants to approve this I'm not asking anybody because we're not taking action, but if you could review what it is we're doing and,
Yeah, I just don't want to, I don't know, I just don't want to, if the board is looking to accomplish this, the service, obviously, I don't want to, when you say look at it, when do you want me to look at this? I mean, tonight, I can look at it tonight, that's fine, but I have to go through it with the administration just to make sure I understand. I mean, it's the first time I'm seeing this.
yeah,
So-
us too.
Okay, all right, well, I'll go through it, and then we'll just figure out what language would be acceptable to the board, okay? And then-
What language they need for the grant, isn't that?
well,
what
yeah,
they're-
all of that has to be balanced, that's why I got to speak to the
Yes,
administration.
the language came directly from them.
Exactly.
Exactly. I didn't
Which
change
is what they're
anything.
saying they need.
So-
So
Yes.
why would there be an objection to it?
Well,
It's their language.
I'm not objecting to their grant, and I'm not objecting to
You just want to
participating.
rewrite what they
I
want
want
to
to
do.
make sure that what it is that's here is what should be here, because, you could take a blurb out of a grant, or somebody could write them something, but, I just want to be secure that
We could-
we're
we-
doing what we're supposed to do.
I mean, this is it's a longish resolution anyway, but we can put in here, if you really need it, we can put in here some sort of intent so that it explains the reason you're adopting this. This doesn't have whereas clauses, but I also I am also concerned about rewriting it too much if this is exactly what they gave us. But if you need to say, you're doing this because as a condition of their receipt of the grant, I'm sure that's not a huge problem, but we don't have them here to be able to have this conversation unless we can reach them, a contact there, maybe you have a cell phone number. But look, we can do this either, I can talk to the administration during a break at some point before tonight's meeting begins.
So can we do that and move on? Okay, thank you. Now we're open for public participation. in accordance with Board Policy 0167. Mr. Hastings?
Yes, Madam President, at this time, there is no public comment emails received.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Seeing that there isn't any emails or anyone here, then I will close public participation. And now we're moving on to review of regular meeting agenda items. Madam Superintendent?
Good evening. Are there any questions related to items on B1? B2? B3?
But I just wanted to clarify on B3, just so the board knows that at the Personnel Committee, the agenda, the names were not filled in, so the committee has not reviewed the names. Not that that's important at this point, but I just want to make that clear.
Thank you, Ms. Lozinski. Madam Superintendent, please.
Any questions on items on B4? B5? And then B6? Okay, seeing as there's no questions, Madam President?
I'm sorry, Madam Superintendent. What did you say?
Seeing there's no questions?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so it's almost 7 o'clock. You want to go through yours?
Yes, we can, if the attorney would like to review, we can adjourn for 5 minutes until our regular meeting, or if there's any questions on the business agenda, I can entertain those at this point.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the work session.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We'll be reconvened at 7.
Did you explain when we're going to closed session?
Not yet. This is only the 6 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
We'll do
We're not, we're doing a closed session at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Good evening. In accordance with provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 1046, Place 1975, C231, S1, amended 2006, C70, S2, the Asbury Park Board of Education has provided adequate notice of this meeting by sending a notice of the time, date, and location to the extent known. The agenda of this meeting to the Asbury Park Press, the New Coaster, on January 3rd, 2020, by email. Copies of this notice have also been placed at the Administration Building Bulletin Board, District Schools, Asbury Park Municipal Building, Asbury Park Police Department, and filed with the City Clerk on January 3rd, 2020. Asbury Park School District will provide all students with a comprehensive and progressive education where everyone possesses the skills and character to succeed in a diverse, evolving global society, and that was our mission statement. Mr. Hastings, roll call, please.
Ms. Etienne? Here. Mr. Grillo?
Here.
Ms. Jones? Here. Mr. LaRocca? Here. Ms. Lozinski? Here. Mr. Pinckney? Here. Mr. Saunders? Ms. Breach? Ms. Alves Anderson?
Here. Please stand for the flag salute. Our pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Madam Superintendent, that we have some presentations this evening.
Yes, good evening, board members and the public. Tonight, we have 2 presentations from district staff. One presentation is our annual update about HIB. It's our school self-assessment, collaborative communication. Delighted to have Dr. Howard Morris presenting on that for us tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So tonight I'm presenting the required school self-assessment for determining the grades under the anti-bullying Bill of Rights Act. And so this is just a school assessment that we've done for ourselves. So we assessed ourselves based on the programs that we had last year from July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. So let's see. So we have Asbury Park High School, self-assessment at 61, Bradley Elementary School at 69, Barack Obama at 67, MLK Middle School at 67, and Thurgood Marshall at 65. Okay, and we looked at the average school grade from 2015-16 up until 2019-2020. We went down a little bit from last year, and I'll explain that a little bit. So again, we had the quality of reports received and investigated were 28. There were 8 confirmed, and there were 20 that were not confirmed. So that's 29% HIBs. And from K to 5, there was 87.5%. The middle school, 12.5%. And the high school, 0. So those were the confirmed HIBs by grade level. And some of the improvements that we looked at, we would like to do more professional development for school safety and climate team and provide ongoing age-appropriate instruction on HIB. And the reason why I say that is because last year when we went out, we unfortunately didn't find a creative way to do professional development with our staff on HIB and also engage our young people who were not all on the computer to do age-appropriate instruction on HIB. So this year, what we decided to do is create a video, and so that the teachers can give it to the students in their health class or something like that, so that all the students will, because it's going to be difficult for all of us to get all of them together to do a presentation like we normally would do. And so we're also doing that for staff as well. So this was our anti-bullying specialist for last year. And of course, this year we have 1 less. Now, the other thing I want to add is the ratings go from 0 to 4. So 0 meaning that you did not meet the requirements. 1 meaning you partially met the requirement. 2 meaning you did meet all the requirements. And 3 meaning that you exceeded the requirements. So that's how it's broken down. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howard Morris. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a question. Surprise. Your second slide, that chart, it doesn't have any headings. I'm a little confused because I'm not sure what this report is really telling me at all.
Is that the one where, let me go back. This one here? That's the self-assessment. So let me go back. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 8 categories.
Okay.
And so these are the numbers that we're giving, for each category, for each school. And then it comes up with the total at the end.
No, I kind of understand that, but I did request the actual report that's being submitted to the state so I could review it prior to your presentation, so I had some intelligent questions to ask. Because right now, I'm confused. I'm not even sure what the district or any district in the state of New Jersey is actually reporting and how they're reporting it and how it's being graded.
It is on the DOE website, if you want to look at it. They have what the requirements are.
Yeah, but if I had known beforehand, I would have I've taken a look at the report. We used to get the, they used to call them vandalism and violence reports. The board always got them to review them, and just so we have an intelligent, we might have a question. And at this point, I don't have any questions because I don't understand the report.
Right, so this is not the vandalism and violence report. This is the self-assessment by the HIB specialist.
Can I ask a question?
Okay,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I think the problem is that you have, everything is in nice little boxes, but what do the boxes mean? What are they related to?
The topics.
The numbers don't tell us what the numbers are related to. Like a 12, what's that mean?
I'll look it up.
When does this have to be submitted, this report?
So again, so like I said, it goes from 0 to 4. Some of the categories are only 3. 1, 2, 3.
When does these have to be submitted?
December.
Can we maybe put it off until next month so we can get the report so the board has a chance to review it and understand what we're looking at? A little bit more about what the self-assessment is? Yeah, but she said December. This is only October.
Oh, then that's the October 31st then. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, October 31st.
So this has to be submitted by October 31st?
Just to be clear, Dr. Howard Morris, it must be submitted by October 31st, because I hear board members asking, the
Yeah, so
31st or
that's-
December?
Yes,
By October 31st?
tomorrow, we're going to
Okay.
submit it. So for instance, if you look at indicator A, element A, it talks about HIB programs, approaches, or other initiatives. So there's 4 categories. And again, like I said, the first category would be 0. Second category would be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and then they have, the first element has, I think, 4 indicators. Elements. I know, I realize that. Okay, the first one, like I said, is element 1, which is HIB programs, approaches, or other initiatives. The second one is core element 2 is training on the Board of Education approved HIB policy and procedures. Element 3 is other staff instruction and training programs. Element 4 is curriculum and instruction on HIB and related information and skills. Element 5 is the principal appointed a school anti-bullying specialist. Element 6 is school level HIB incident reporting procedure. Element 7 is HIB investigation procedures. And then the last one is the school has a procedure for ensuring that a staff member reports include the required information for all incidents, violence, and vandalism, and HIB.
If I may, Dr. Howard Morris, what I'm hearing from the board is that they have this information here in front of them, but they wanted to have more clarification and understanding. So I believe that is what you're referring to, you're saying, Ms. Lozinski, and I've heard that from several other board members. So as we move forward, when you're doing a presentation, if they could have that information, the documents, whatever it is that they need, so that if they do have questions, that they have that information first and be able to ask you any questions that they may have. Okay. Does that help, Ms. Lozinski?
Well, anything that's on the agenda should have attachments if it's being included, including what's being sent to the state if you're reporting something, not just the short version, whatever. The other, I just had a question about, I was concerned, and I don't know if you have an explanation of why most of the confirmed HIB are coming from the elementary schools.
Well, for the most part, I mean, the high school's a little, I mean, they're more mature.
Can't hear you.
I mean, teasing and things like that are usually reported as HIBs. And so, again, the education, teaching the young people what HIB actually is sometimes, difficult when, the parents are upset if a child is teasing, because sometimes it's not necessarily an HIB, but it's going to be reported. If it's reported as a HIB, we still have to do the investigation.
So what it is that it's initially reported, it's not that it turns out to be a HIB confirmed?
No, not
Okay.
necessarily.
All
Very
right.
few were confirmed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Howard Morris.
Thank you.
Okay. We have another presentation, Madam Superintendent, the parent community involvement goal.
Yes, one of our district goals this year is about parent and community engagement. Ms. Ivy Brown is one of the executive leadership team members that oversees that goal. I'm going to turn it over to her, and she'll elaborate.
Still not? Can you hear me? Good evening. I just want to thank the Board of Education and under the leadership of the superintendent to briefly speak upon our community and parental engagement district goal. Our district goal was that at the end of school year 1920, the school district will have increased parent participation and attendance by 20%, and back to school nights, parent-teacher conferences, Board of Education meetings, and visiting district website and social media sites. Our baseline was the 2018-19 school year, and based on the attendance and participation of parent interactions, we showed an increase. After raise from 18-19, we created a system for parent-teacher conferences, which included direct communication with the parents. In the past, it was that parents just showed up at any time slot that was available, so the parents didn't know what parents were coming in. I mean, the teachers didn't know what parents were coming in for what student. So we took that. In 1920, we had an increase because parents actually made the phone calls and reached out to the parents. And starting this year, the superintendent expanded the role of the district translators. Instead of just translating documents, they're making phone calls, they're doing videos, and they're helping every department in our school district. Being virtual, we had to apply a different approach to, again, our parent-teacher conferences, so they called. Our back-to-school nights, we noticed that our numbers were low, but in 1920, we showed an increase. We had the teachers, again, more involved with calling them and promoting, hey, come see us, see what your school is all about. It declined some in 2021 because we were virtual this September. We had some participation, but parents are still learning the virtual stuff, the Google Classroom, the tablets. Our Board of Education attendance were low, but since the global pandemic, and thanks to the board for allowing us to go hybrid and do both models, we've seen a tremendous increase because they can call in. They can call in from their jobs. They can call in from home. They can just log in wherever they're at and still be able to hear what's going on in their school district. Where we are, because the pandemic might have shut the world down, education did not stop. If anything, it forced us to think out of the box and get out of our comfort zone. For example, we're used to our nurses just being in the school. If you have a headache, come take your medicine or whatever. That's what pretty much their normal day-to-day work was. But no, this year they thought, how can I still reach out to them? How can I get them help? What can I do for them? Under the leadership of Debbie Sylvia and even Dr. Howard Morris, they made phone calls. Hey, what's going on? They reached out. They had the attendance officers actually go to the homes, safe protocols, get them their devices, get them what they need. And this year, our principals are having a separate communication link just for the parents. So Bradley has the Bradley Tribune. Upper Elementary is called the Digest. Thurgood Marshall, Tiger Express, and the high school is called the Bishop Chat. This is direct communication for the parents. Our next steps, since we're still in this pandemic, a lot of it is going to be virtual. Family nights are going to be virtual. Our first coming up is the Paint and Chat. And for the holidays, since we can't sit down with the families, our traditional sit-down meals, we want to do cooking with the chef. Stuff that families already have in the house, we want them to use it different, but still interact with them. Our district is going to sponsor social emotional wellness activities for the students and their families. Our community family involvement specialist, Sonia, thank you. She will be hosting Google Classrooms for Spanish-speaking parents. But also, I'll email this to you, you can click on that link, and they'll show you the things that we have been doing so far and we're going to plan on doing with our parents and community. And again, Social Conscious, we thank them we started with Christmas in July. And when and if we get back to our school, we're going to have Bishop Bubbles, which is just like the laundry room at the high school. And we will continue to raise the note to ensure we're meeting the needs of our students and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Are there any questions from the board members?
I have a question.
Madam Etienne?
Yeah. At the beginning of the presentation, you said we had an increase. Is there a specific percentage that increase was?
Or
when you were talking about parent participation?
we did it because of the first 18-19 was our baseline and our goal was on those 4 particular areas. We did it like our parent-teacher conference. We saw an increase from year to year. So it was too much to put on there, based on the slides. I can show you from 18-19, 19-20, and 2021, the particular 4 areas that our goal was.
Okay.
So we wanted to increase that by 20%. So we're like, all right, so we have to reach our parents more than just back to school nights, parent-teacher conferences. So in 2021, we're just going to, every avenue, every way that we can get a hold of our parents, that's what we're going to do.
Okay, but I know at the beginning you said we had an increase. I just wanted to know if there was a specific number associated with that increase.
It depends. I can give you an example. 47% was the parent-teacher conferences from 18-19.
Okay.
And then 19-20 was 51.3.
All right. Additionally, I know that you said Sonia will be hosting the Google Classrooms in Spanish. Is there somebody hosting them in French Creole?
Yes, Miss Etienne. Miss Etienne Etienne will be assisting us because she assisted with the Chrome, with the tablet. She translated that so the parents can know exactly, how to do it. So she, in conjunction with Miss Sonia, both of them will be working together.
Okay. And then my son, his school has like a parent portal where the parents can access grades, attendance, lunch balances. Do we have something like that?
Yes, we do. This year we incorporated the online registration, and part of that was to get email addresses for all the parents. And then Ms. Shantae has a big binder of email addresses, so we're going to encourage the parents this year to really get into that parent portal.
So what's the platform that the parent portal is run on?
It's on Genesis.
Okay. I know, from my professional, my vocation, that some of my parents were struggling with Genesis in terms of how it was, the accessibility of Genesis and the information. Because I know that any portal is only as good as the people that are inputting the information. So do we have a plan to make sure that all teachers are putting in the information in a timely manner and that all teachers are putting in the amount of information? I know that some parents had a lot of information and some parents had almost no information because that particular person was not putting in information. So what is going to be the quality check to make sure that the teachers are inputting what they're supposed to be inputting?
Well, I know when the principals meet with them, and we're utilizing Google Classroom a lot, so that's why the principals are having that where the parents can go in. But we do want to at least help the parents with Genesis, but we have the Google Classroom where they're using every single day. So we're hoping if that would be the door to get us to fully use the parent portal in Genesis.
Excuse me, Madam Etienne. To answer your question, what we've required of the principals is to make sure they communicate that teachers are putting in a certain number of grades per week that are calculated into Genesis so that when parents go in, that there is adequate upgraded data in there for them to see. So if that's answering your question?
Yeah, it was, because there's some parents that find what they're looking for, and then there's times when there's nothing there, like they're logging in and finding nothing.
Also, Mr. Ruiz is also ensuring that we're following our calculated grade calculations percentage that grades and the grade distribution along with Mrs. Sylvia's department. So all of those things are being implemented within the Genesis system to help parents with the parent portal.
So one last question. So I guess when we come, I'm sorry, when we come to that final number, I know one of the things that we were talking about is a 50% increase, right? So I don't think I have quite a grasp on how that's calculated because we have different levels of interaction, right? We have parent-teacher conferences, we have back-to-school night, we have the parent portal. So how does what is the formula in terms of calculating that 50% increase that we're talking about for the year? Like, how does that, I know there's a bunch of raw data, right? Like Bradley hands in their parent-teacher conference. Like at the end of the year, we come up with a complete parent participation percentage. Do you know how all that culminates into a number?
It's everything she said, right?
The Google, yes, we started with the Google form. So every event that is being held, let it be at the schools, every time you're inviting or have a meeting with a parent, we are using the Google sign-in sheets. So that tracks everybody. So, and we try to implement that with the back-to-school night. Which school did the most? Bradley, where all the parents signed in, and we had account for that. Some schools, not so good, because we're still learning the Google Classroom, but we're utilizing that so we can track every interaction with a parent. It'll be on the Google.
All right, I guess my question was just to, if we ever wanted to review it, to make sure that all that data was stored, and then that if we wanted to go in and double check how participation was measured, that there was something actually physical that we can look through.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Don't ever
Ms.
apologize.
Lozinski, did you have a question?
Don't ever apologize for a question. Yes, I just had it. I was interested to know what cooking with the chef was.
Oh, we're gonna, with the Sodexo chef? Yes, I'm sorry. Usually they make dinners for us for Christmas and Thanksgiving, but we can't have that now. So it'll be virtual. So whatever Barbara has, I know you have potatoes and rice, but we're gonna do something different and still get the family involved to have a holiday dinner.
So they're going to be given like a menu and get
Yes.
these items, and you're
Yes.
going to do it without
Yep.
any kind of.
And then also in November, we're getting fresh produce boxes for the families, again, like we did in the summertime.
That's great. Thank you.
How do we participate?
You want to participate? Sure.
Yeah,
I'll
of
send you the
course.
link through Google. Through Google. Yes, you're more than welcome.
Will you be distributing the turkeys and things like you did
Yes,
last year?
thank you for saying that. We have 40 holiday baskets where 10 will be distributed to each school.
And when are you doing that?
November 13th. You'll get an invite.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Brown. Mrs. Brown, if I may, one of the comments that I heard from several board members, they would like to know that the baseline, you said 50%, they would like to know they need that information, what it was.
I can
for-
email that
Yes, if you could
to you
email
guys.
that.
I sure will. Yes.
Okay, to the full board?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That we had our discussion regarding the board goals, action plans by board members during the 6 o'clock hour, right? No need to review again unless you have some questions or comments that you would like.
I'm sorry about.
Regarding the board goals for the 2021, do you have any, we already presented.
Yeah, I just need I wanted a copy of what your guys.
Yeah, I emailed.
I did email it to you.
Yeah.
It should be in your email. I emailed it to you prior to the board meeting. Okay, so you're confirming that you received it? Okay, thank you. So now, Madam Superintendent, do you have a presentation?
Yeah, I do have, I'm going to, Madam President, if it's acceptable, my presentation will kind of just roll into the report and the data, which includes the data dashboard.
Thank you.
So I'm very delighted that the district is able to provide options for all of our families during this global pandemic, and had an opportunity to watch the governor's press conference today. And in his conference, he made several references to a wave potentially on the horizon. And so when I think about our ability to provide comprehensive supports for our children, that looks like the hybrid approach, where we have received currently our self-contained special education students. They're coming on a regular basis and have been coming since September 28th. We have our pre-K students that are coming daily. We have kindergarten students that are coming. Grades 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9 have been coming, and starting on Monday, all grade levels will come. They'll be coming to school and following for those parents and families that have chosen in-person instruction. They will be coming on a blue or bishop day, meaning an A-B rotation. And I'm very pleased by this because, like the stock market ticker, I look at the Google document for the full remote option, and every time I go on, it's changing. And sometimes as I'm looking at it, I see more and more updates. And what that tells me and how that informs me is that we are able to offer a full remote experience for those families that have elected to do so. The last check before this meeting, we were somewhere at 422 families that have chosen that full remote option. When I look at our enrollment data dashboard, and we look at the enrollment from the beginning, the first day of school till now, you'll note kindergarten has probably the highest increase. And then when you look at the upper elementary, you'll see grades 5 and 6, there's an increase. And then when we go to the high school, we'll notice in the high school beginning at grade 7, so grades 7 through 12, you'll notice that we've been pretty consistent since the first day to currently October 20th in our report. So that's interesting to note, and I bring and draw that to your attention because it shows as an indicator that whatever the format that parents want, there's consistency across the board, if not an increase. You may see a plus or minus 2 on one of the bar graphs, maybe an increase on one grade of 2 and then a decrease on another, but by and large, our enrollment has remained pretty static. It's just the offerings and how parents are choosing to interact. I'm also very pleased. I'd taken pictures, and unbeknownst to me, the pictures came out foggy, too blurry. But when I did the walkthrough on the first 2 days of the integration of our pre-K daily and our kindergarten students, and then grades 4 and 5, 7 and 8 and 9, what was particularly refreshing was the fact that the protocols that the team sat around, and some of the board members were a part of that. So thank you so much for helping to drive and inform and ask those questions. When you're at that 40,000-foot view, you know, you have great ideas, but it's the boots on the ground that implement and execute those things. And I was very pleased when I looked and did my school visitations that the protocols that we designed, the protocols that were directed to go into that rollback plan, when I conceived those, when I conceptualized them, I was able to walk around and see them. For example, we have safety and wellness. Our students have a heightened level of safety and cleanliness protocols. The early childhood classrooms, particularly because there are a lot of manipulatives and a lot of things that they need to touch. And those rooms are very materials rich and have a lot of things happening, center-based instruction. Every classroom I visited had a cleaning station. There's a clear cleaning protocol. Students were learning the protocol. Teachers were enforcing that. We were able to observe social distancing happening. And oftentimes I got the question before we brought students in, how do you know they're going to keep their masks on? Are you sure? Every classroom I went into, those students had their masks on, and they were proud to say that they felt like a big boy or big girl because they had the mask on. The parents, I had an opportunity here at Bradley Elementary to observe an interaction between a staff member, a parent, and a child waiting to come in because the parent wasn't sure if it was their child's day to report. Upon further inquiry, staff member came out and said, "Mom, yes, this is your child's day for school." The parent said, "I need you to do two things. I need you to remember what I taught you at home and be respectful. And above all, number two, do not take off that mask." And literally, when I walked around the building, I asked children, I said, "How do you feel about being in school?" Overjoyed, so excited, and I was able to interact with students that were also full remote at the same time. And we've learned a lot of things during this pandemic that will potentially inform what we will do when we are able to resume an in-person experience. So I want to share that. At the higher level now, I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum and talk about our high school students. During this global pandemic, during this virtual instruction, as I shared, we don't have 12th graders in our schools. 12th graders will not come in until November 2nd. However, there was an instant decision day for college acceptance on October 22nd. 14 seniors participated, 30 acceptances to 3 colleges. The scholarships do not include EOF funds, because those have not been awarded yet. The schools where students have been accepted, Bloomfield College, we had 11 students accepted, and the scholarships total $111,000. New Jersey City University, 14 accepted, 1 senior was accepted and received a full ride. The other scholarships are pending. Georgian Court, we had 5 students that were accepted, 3 received scholarships totaling $47,000. Tomorrow will be the instant decision day for Kane University, as well as Montclair State University, and we're extremely delighted, excited, because we know that we have students that meet the criteria and will likely qualify for a scholarship. I want to thank Ms. Debbie Sylvia and the guidance department, as well as Dr. Howard Morris and the administration, who've been actively involved in this process to ensure that to date, that we have students that are college-bound and have those scholarship opportunities that have been afforded to them.
Are we putting that in the newspaper, the money, the schools the kids are getting into?
We literally just got this information.
Oh, okay.
Like, this is hot off the
And we are
press.
going to do that.
Yes, we have some tweets that have gone out, but the confirmation of the dollars and all of that, literally just received that, and I was very excited, wanted to share that tonight and make it a matter of the record, because I know we may have public listening.
Yeah, but it
will
definitely, we need
definitely-
to blow our own horn.
It will definitely be found on our district website, and we will look to have it put in some press, the media.
Can I add one more thing to that? Because right before I left, I got an email from City University with some more of the financial information that was provided, and 5 out of the 14 students that received scholarships received awards that total $148,432.
Madam President, that completes my report. I just want to again acknowledge the executive leadership for their tireless support. The administration has done a phenomenal job during this time when there's a lot of uncertainty, making sure that our students remain focused and vigilant, even in a virtual space. So thank you very much.
Ms. Sylvia, what was that college again? City University?
New Jersey City University.
Okay.
Yeah, Ms. Lozinski?
I have a question. If we could go back to the student enrollment and different areas that is increasing and some that are decreasing. I had a discussion with Ms. Antien, and I'm not sure, did College Achieve ask for increased enrollment this year? Was anybody notified of that?
What I've been made aware of is an expansion for them to utilize another facility in an effort to comply with physical distancing requirements. The language of the letter that we received stated that it was not to increase their enrollment, but it was to ensure that they had physical distancing requirements in place. And I received that letter from the Department of Education.
Okay, so they haven't requested additional enrollment then? I just want to make that clear.
All that I received from the Department of Education as it relates to the College Achieve situation was that they wanted and needed additional space to maintain physical distancing.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure because I was reading that Hoboken this year was able to, because there's a public hearing period where you can send in a comment about increased enrollment, and because they're under the same situation we are with S2, and it's going to hit them fiscally if students are taken away from the district, that I really want to make sure that if there is an increased enrollment in any of the charter schools, that we are notified so that the board can respond and send in an opposition because of the funding situation.
Do we know our current enrollment right now, as it stands?
We do, I just don't have that number in front of me. It varies around 1,650. And that's an approximation. I just want the record to reflect that's an approximation.
Are there any other questions from the board? Well, the news regarding the scholarships and our students is awesome, and we thank you for your support and all of your hard work. Thank you. And now, public participation in accordance with Board Policy 0167. Mr. Hastings?
Yes, Madam President, we have no comments at this time.
Thank you very much. Anyone from the public here? Okay, thank you very much. It's nice to see you, lovely ladies. This will now close public participation. Madam State Monitor, do you have a report for us tonight?
Yes, I would like to, can you hear me? Yes. I would like to make a couple of comments. I am reminded when I'm looking around the room constantly that we are on public TV with, I'm sure, a big audience, which we certainly appreciate. But I think it would be appropriate for me as the monitor, since when there are problems in the district, I have to go to individuals to address those problems. I feel an obligation to also say something nice now and then. And I would like to take this opportunity to compliment and congratulate the administration on the opening of school. Many people do not realize sitting home or having perhaps being retired, like most people my age are, that have any idea how a school is run and what it takes to open in a normal year. It's a massive job, and it requires a tremendous amount of teamwork. I have an added opportunity this year to observe not only Asbury Park, but Atlantic City in their opening, and they have 10 schools that are experiencing the same problems that Asbury and every other school is experiencing. But I have to tell you that having been in this business a long time, the time requirement that this pandemic has caused schools to address is just beyond what anybody could imagine if you were not, I think, directly involved on a daily basis in the running of a school. This is in addition to what every other school year involves, safety and educational components being the most important of all, social and emotional issues that children are having at home, schedules being changed almost daily, teachers and administrators preparing for 3 types of education: remote, virtual, and in-school, as opposed to, for instance, in a normal year, just the in-school alone. Finding ways to feed students that are in need of assistance on a daily basis. And the number that have been fed, for instance, here is staggering. What is it offhand? Do you remember your last report, Ivy?
For the week, they're like 200.
Oh.
No, I'm just saying like weekly is like 200. Where when we first had the pandemic, we were like 1,000.
In the beginning, as Ivy says, over 1,000 in a week at some points. Transportation, which changes every time the schedule changes. Special education, which has had to reinvent itself to address the needs of our children. Staff needs and concerns about their own health and safety issues and those that they're dealing with at home on a basis of providing, their own child with education, trying to teach, and also perhaps childcare issues or health issues. As I indicated, the amount of time alone when you watch it and you see how it functions and how it runs, and the number of hours that these people have put in additionally to what they would normally be required for the beginning of a school year is just phenomenal. I haven't seen or heard one complaint by anybody doing that. I don't know how this lady continues to survive 24/7. And I have to tell you and remind the public and assure the public that's watching that your school district is functioning very well and your children are being addressed in the areas that I outlined. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't remind the board that there are positive things to look for on an agenda and on a job that's being done, not just negative. When I pick up goals and see that people want to impose time limits and that, it's just not possible. When you don't have perhaps anything else to do, that would be possible. These people are working 24/7. And to provide for the safety and welfare of the children, that's going to continue because we all know that this, unless you're a conspiracy theorist, this is not going away next week. We'll be lucky to see it go away in many, many months. So it's going to continue to change on a daily basis. And when it does, every one of these things kicks in, and every one of them has to be changed, and every one of them requires time, and every one of them requires additional people. And this is a district that's lost personnel and persons since I've been here, and especially with S2 for the last few years. So not only are you opening under extenuating circumstances, to say the least, you're doing it with less personnel and less people. So getting back to everybody instantly or doing some of the other things that people seem to be concerned about, although they may be important to you, I really ask you, before perhaps you pick up the phone or you offer a criticism, to understand that people have other jobs to do. It is not the responsibility of the district nor the administration to simply answer concerns, questions, complaints, whatever it might be, immediately. It is their responsibility to provide for the wealth and safety of the staff and the children in the school district. So I congratulate you because you've been doing that. You've been doing it well. I think our children are as safe and as ready to come back as they possibly can be. Whether they stay back or not, I don't know. If they don't, that will also require another adjustment. So my report simply tonight is to assure the public and to remind everybody that we have to have a little patience and cooperation with this, because when you sit here, as I have tried to do on a number of occasions, and be very objective with what's going on, I'm concerned that there's not a lot of thought sometimes given to the effort that goes into some of these reports or programs or conditions that you're commenting on. So I hope that it would be a positive message. I realize it's not entirely a positive message, but I kind of think it's one that might be long overdue. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam State Monitor.
Madam
Any
President, I
questions?
had a question
Okay.
for the superintendent. I know the last time we had a meeting, there was, the graduation rate wasn't finalized yet. Have you gotten the graduation rate from the state?
I will, Ms. Sylvia?
It's not released till the end of November. We only have the tentative one that I reported on. I don't have the, all the appeals or how we resulted from that. So by the end of November, we should know.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, then, thank you. Mr. Hastings, acceptance of minutes, please.
Thank you. Could I have a motion for item 10A on A1?
Move.
Second.
Question? Roll call, Mr. Hastings.
Ms. Etienne?
Yes.
Mr. Grillo?
Yes.
Ms. Jones? Mr. LaRocca? Ms. Lozinski?
Yes.
Mr. Pinckney? Ms. Alves Anderson?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Now, Madam Superintendent, would you like to ask for a consent agenda?
I'm requesting a consent agenda for all items on B1 to B6.
I'll move it.
Second.
Question?
Does this include the addendum for the change in?
Yes, Board Council has amended it. The, You have it? No, I don't.
So we're going to add on B6, number 3, we're going to add a sentence to that. Hopefully it satisfies the majority, or hopefully everybody, but at least the majority of the board. After the word consequence/response, the board accepts this agreement on the condition that KYDS receives the, quote, Respond with Restorative Practices School-Based Diversion Program, end quote, grant for its work with Asbury Park High School. Is that satisfactory with the head nods? I see them. Okay.
Thank you, Board Council. Madam Superintendent?
So we have the motion.
Oh, okay, we have a motion.
All items B1 to B6, moved by Ms. Lozinski, second by Mr. Grillo.
Any other questions? Roll call, Mr. Hastings.
Ms. Lozinski?
Yes on everything, but no on B5, number 19.
B5, number?
19.
Thank you. Mr. Grillo?
Yes on everything, abstain from B1C.
Ms. Etienne?
Yes on everything.
Ms. Jones?
Yes on everything except B5. No.
Mr. LaRocca? Mr. Pinckney? Ms. Alves Anderson?
Yes on everything.
All items carry.
Mr. Hastings, whenever you are ready, would you like to ask for a consent agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Could I have a motion for all items C1, number 1 to C8, number 2?
Move it.
Question?
I had a couple of questions on the C517, the solar instruction bid, and then also it includes, I would imagine, C3 number 9, the
Okay.
ESIP associate. I know Mr. Hastings and I, and also Mr. LaRocca and I have had several conversations about that, and I had some questions, and some of the conversation I had with Mr. Hastings is that I guess in the end, and Mr. LaRocca can correct me, the installation could take a year to a year and a half to happen, and then a year of operation before we would see the benefit, which is $45,000 they're anticipating. So what I had talked about is the costs up front, and I know that one item on here is $10,900. I don't know what the architect's fees are or the attorney fees, and I also talked to Jeff about hidden surprises, like when they get inside and they look at roof joists in the buildings, and he had noticed, I guess there's a part in the agreement which covers that, and I forget what you called it, Jeff, and you were going to look into that a little bit.
The escalation?
Yeah, escalation. So that would add percentages to the quote, which they gave us was 0, so we would see all the benefit. And then if there were hidden costs that they had to make roof upgrades or something, then that percentages would go up. So that, it could go up a few percentage points or whatever. So I was kind of concerned about that. And I didn't know if there were any other costs that were associated with it. I know Jeff was going to ask the gentleman to come and give a presentation, but I guess the weather was kind of unstable for something like that.
Yes, so let me back up for you for C3 number 9, which is the Energy Savings Improvement Program and the appointment of DLB Associates as a third-party engineer. So part of the ESIP process is that there's a lot to the process. We go through a lot of different steps, and have been meeting with the energy services provider company that the board appointed, and they will be presenting a plan to us that's going to talk about what projects are going to be recommended to the board and to the district, and then what savings those will generate based on energy usage. The appointment of this C3 number 9 engineer is as a third-party verifier. So the energy services company will come to us. They'll say they're going to improve the lighting, HVAC systems, boilers, put things on timers, all those sorts of things that go into the energy savings. They're going to propose what those savings will be. And then the appointment of this third-party provider, which is required in the legislation, is to guarantee or look at those and make an assessment as to the reasonableness of the estimates being provided. So that's the role of that third-party engineer. The other reason that's important for everyone is that if the savings aren't met, there's a guarantee being provided to make up the difference. So there is an incentive there for both the power company, the solar company, and the ESIP provider to make sure these projects are successful and meet the requirements and the goals that are being set forth by the plan. In terms of some of the questions you and I discussed earlier this week, we talked about the winds and the location of the solar panels on the roofs. And the answer to that basically is that the city and or state and perhaps the county has code that's been set forth that determines what code must be met to install those on the roof. So again, a certified, licensed person will be monitoring and reviewing that and making sure that the installation meets those code requirements set forth by the state and by the town. We talked about the escalation fee and the condition of the roofs. Again, we had a BPU energy person come down probably about a year ago now. Part of their inspection was of the roofs. We have warranties on certain roofs in certain, periods. So if it's a 10-year warranty, we're at different phases of that. But part of the solar approach was also to do an inspection on those roofs. And that was incorporated in their system setup. So when they look at the roof structures, they're not going to put solar panels on sections of roofs that aren't appropriate, or up front they're going to tell us that if you do want it there, that those improvements have to be made. So the differences in some of the financial outcomes you saw in the evaluation report is based on the fact that one company is assessing, 10 panels and one is assessing 7 based on the space and the shading and those sorts of things. So that's sort of baked in to the process. As we discussed, the financial incentive is that putting these solar panels onto the roof is a project that nets profit for these companies. So it's in their interest to make sure that these things are done and done properly. The district will be charged 0 for the power coming off, so that gets into the escalation factor that you and I discussed, and perhaps Mr. LaRocca. So upfront, without any changes, the district will be receiving the power off of those solar panels at a cost of 0 to us. The solar company is responsible for putting them on. The solar company is responsible for maintaining them. And then at the end of a 15-year run, the district will have the option of either renewing with these companies, soliciting additional proposals, or buying the solar arrays for us to use ourselves without them. The solar company is responsible, I don't know if I mentioned, for the maintenance daily. And then in terms of the escalation factor, as I said, we're starting at a 0 on the cost of the electricity coming off that array. And should there be any emergent conditions that need to be addressed based on the roofs or other issues, there will be an escalation factor of tenths of cents, which means we'll still be saving money and still receiving a lower rate than will be provided by JCP&L and or the cooperative that we're using for the commodity itself.
And Mr. Hastings, who watches this whole project? Is it the sole responsibility of the third-party engineer, or is it the responsibility of who?
Well, it's the responsibility of the company that we're appointing to put these on there. And as I said, there's an obvious financial incentive for it to be done properly. We also have our district architect and engineers involved with the project to do inspections and to make sure it's being done properly. There are more than just one set of eyes looking at this as the project goes forth. And I believe Mr. Latterock can correct me if I'm wrong or misrecollecting, but I believe when we interviewed the companies, they were talking about a 4-month installation.
That's correct. All 5 companies presented a timeline under 1 year. There are delays in the approval process that would get it closer to 1 year, but Barb's correct that board should be aware there's no savings as we look at next year's budget. The savings would primarily kick in the following year.
Right, so we would maintain our participation in the ACES program, which is sponsored through New Jersey School Boards, and Gable Associates helps manage those. So we'll be still receiving the cooperative discounted commodity pricing from them on that project.
Mr. Hastings, your estimate about, I just wanted to know what the costs are up front, so I have an idea. Do you have any estimate on what the architect's fees would be? Our architect's fees would be for the, make inspections they would do ongoing?
Right, so I don't have those costs in front of me here. However, in talking to the architect and the financial people that represent the district, our bond counsel, our finance people, any out-of-pocket costs that we may be needing to put forth can be arranged so that when the financing is received, the district's immediately reimbursed. So that would be a quicker offset as opposed to, I think you and I discussed or kicked around whether it would take X number of years of savings to then, refill the pot.
Are there any other questions?
I just had one question. Do we know if the contractors work with the local unions, like IBEW or anything like that? Is there like a PLA involved with the?
You guys, if you were doing a PLA, you would have had to adopt one as a board beforehand.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Hastings. Roll call, please.
I just have one question on one other item. Who's running the fundraiser? That's number 7.
That's the high school fundraiser. You're talking about the PBSIS
Yeah,
raffle. I think it's a clothing, T-shirts, hooded sweatshirts.
yeah.
Yeah, that's normally coordinated through the students and their student advisors or faculty advisors.
It just, they email me, we'll support that.
We'll put you down for both.
Thank you, Mr. LaRocca. Anyone else before we do roll call? All right, then, Mr. Hastings, roll call, please.
Mr. Grillo?
Yes on everything, abstain on C4, number 12, number 13, and C5, number 17.
Thank you. Mr. Pinckney? Ms. Etienne? Ms. Jones? Mr. LaRocca? Ms. Lozinski?
Yes.
Ms. Abez Anderson?
Yes.
All motions carry.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, thank you. We are going to, a motion to go into executive caucus, whereas the Open Public Meetings Act allows for the exclusion from discussion at the public portion of a meeting of certain matters as outlined below. And whereas the Asbury Park Board of Education wishes to discuss such matters, made and will make such discussions public when a proper conclusion has been reached. Now therefore be it resolved that the Asbury Park Board of Education will hold a closed executive session on this date, October 29th, 2020 at Asbury Park, New Jersey, for the purposes as outlined and described below. Upon return, action may be taken, and this will be in regards to number 8, personnel matters. So we can expect to be out for about 30 minutes.
Whatever,
I'll move it.
Yeah. But there, just correct me if I'm wrong, there's no action for the board to be taking afterwards. So,
Okay.
so just to be, maybe tell the public that we won't be taking any action, assuming we know for sure that that's the case, that we won't be taking any action, so these fine people can go home and not expect.
Yeah, we're not going to be
Yeah.
taking any action, so you can go home this evening, and we'll see you next time. We thank you so very much for coming out. It's nice seeing you.
So we
Thank
have a
you.
motion that's.
I need a
moved by-
second.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, good night, everyone. Thank you.
And then we'll just come out.